Hope you guys are all doing well. This is going to be the most important video that you're going to watch on how to get an A star in A-level maths. In this video, I'll be breaking down all the resources that I used, how I revised, when I revised, and how I used all the resources. So I'll be breaking it all down in this video. So if you do find this video useful, make sure to drop a like below and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and share it with a friend who's not very good at maths. So before we get into the video, I want to break down this one notion that a lot of you guys share, and that is the idea that you're not naturally gifted at maths. First of all, you don't need to be naturally gifted at maths to get an A star in A-level maths, you know. So I wanted to completely drop that idea. I got a grade 7 in GCSE maths, which is just borderline scraping into A-level maths, but I ended up getting an A star in A-level maths. So you don't need to be naturally gifted at maths. All you need is the right resources and the right guidance to point you in the right direction to do well in A-level maths, and that is what I'll be doing in this video. So watch till the end of the video, use all the resources, and I hope you get the A star in A-level maths. So let's jump right into it. I think I'm recording now. I tried getting up Loom video recording app to work, but it was messing about. I had to download another software, but now I think everything should be fine. So you guys can already see the resources on my tabs opened up, but I'll be showing you how to use each resource effectively. First of all, the best resource for A-level maths out there is Bison Maths. Mr. Bison, an absolute legend. He goes through content thoroughly and he explains everything so well. But I think there's a specific method to use this content effectively so you can maximize your chances of getting the A star in A-level maths. So how I would recommend using Bison Maths is very simple. You're going to use Bison Maths to learn the content. Sounds fairly simple, right? But hear me out. You're going to use Bison Maths before your lesson, whether it be early morning, before school, or a couple days before you actually go about learning the content in lesson. You're going to learn the content using Bison Maths content. So what I used to do is I used to wake up around 4:30 a.m. I know it sounds fairly early, right? But if you want that A star, you better be waking up early or revising extra hard. So what I would do, I would wake up at like 4:30 or 5 a.m. and I would quickly go through the content that I'll be covering in lesson that day. So let's say I would be covering, I don't know, binomial, year 2 binomial expansion. I'd quickly find the playlist that covers binomial expansion on the playlist section, and I'll go through the video. And this would take about 20 to 30 minutes. And what I would do is I would watch the video and I would also go through the example question that he does. So if I understand the content straight away, I would pause at the next question and I would attempt it myself. And if I get it right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's about understanding the content. The most fundamental thing that a lot of people get wrong in maths is not understanding the content. So it's very important to learn the content effectively, and I think Bison Maths, Mr. Bison does an excellent job of explaining the content effectively. So Bison Maths is the #1 resource on this list, and I would usually recommend using Bison Maths before you actually learn the content in school. So when you go into your class, you already have an understanding of what you're going to be covering in class that day, which will just help you digest information much better. And next is it builds on the Bison Maths content, I would say. Once you learn the content using Bison Maths, you're going to go into lesson that day or in the next few days, and you're going to attempt the practice. Once your teacher explains the content to you, again, after you've already covered it using Bison Maths, you're going to attempt the practice questions that are in your Edexcel or AQA or whatever exam board that you do. You're going to attempt the practice questions that are in the textbook. For example, in A-level maths, in Edexcel A-level maths, our textbook contains practice questions that are split into different sections. I think some are called practice questions and some are called exam style questions. So I just recently found this channel, and this YouTube channel contains practice questions from the A-level textbook. Let me see if I can find an example.
How to get the most of
Grammarly. Give me a second. yeah, so these questions are actually found from the practice question section on your edXL A-level maths section, A-level maths textbooks. So do those practice questions in your textbooks and get up to the point where you can comfortably do the exam style questions. Build up to the exam style questions, and once you're confident in class practicing these questions, this is the next resource that you're going to use. And you can use this resource during your free periods, or if in lesson, if you have extra time, if you have access to a computer, or you can get printout of this resource. And you can also, the best time to use this is also after school. And this is Neildoesmaths. There's two ways that you can actually use Neildoesmaths, but the way that we're going to be using it first is for practice questions on the topic that we just covered. So once you go on Neildoesmaths, this is the homepage of the resource, and at the top it will say new A-level core 2019 specs. If you're doing pure, I'll mainly be covering year 2, but you can also use year 1 content as well. Click on year 2 A-level pure, that section, and this will take you to past exam questions on the topic that you're covering. And it goes all the way up to the differential equation section, which is, I think, the very last topic or the very last chapter on the edXL textbook. So you're going to use this resource to practice the exam questions section after you feel comfortable doing the practice questions that are on the textbooks. So this section, it covers the newer exam questions as well. So what you're going to do is pick the topic that you've just recently covered. Let's say you covered, I don't know, parametric differentiation. You're going to click on the exam questions and you're going to attempt every single question on here. All right. Some of them will be difficult because these are exam questions. As you can see here, this is the exam. This is the date that where this question was used. So you're going to complete each worksheet. You can, like I said, you can print this out, take this into lesson, and once you feel comfortable, you can start doing these questions, and you can use the mark scheme to correct yourself as well. So this is another very useful resource that you can use to improve your math skills and get that exam practice in as soon as you can. And I would also recommend going through each topic again and again. For example, if you did, let's say, solving trigonometric equations and radians a couple months ago, it's good to go through this worksheet again so you get that understanding again and again, and you don't just simply forget things after you learn it in A-level maths, because the A-level spec is a very long spec and it's easy to forget content. So I would say go through these questions just every once in a while. Just click on a random topic and just do a couple questions so you don't forget the topic. And there's another way that you can use a Neildoesmaths, and this is very underrated. And this is by clicking on this section, which is A-level practice paper. Oh, I forgot to mention, you can also use this section for applied maths. Applied maths is also very important in A-level maths, and I forgot to mention that. Neildoesmaths has some of, if not the best questions to practice with for applied maths. They don't have all the questions for applied maths, but they have the more harder topics like application of forces and all the other topics. But I would say the best way of revising applied maths is to actually use the textbook. The textbook's by far the best way of revising for your applied maths exams. And of course, there aren't many resources available for applied maths as much as pure maths, but the textbooks are by far the best way to revise. The textbook contains a lot of exam style questions and a lot of practice questions that you can use, and once you become fairly confident with those, then you can move on to the exam papers, and I'll show you how to find those as well in this video. So moving on from applied maths, A-level practice papers 2019 specs, as I was saying. This is by far the most underrated way. Second the most underrated way, because there's something even more underrated that a lot of people aren't using, and I'll show you that later on in this video. See, right now they have these predicted papers. These are all predicted papers. None of these are actual past papers. And what they do on Neildoesmaths is they do these best guess type papers where they use the exam questions that were asked on the previous year's questions,
previous year's exams, and they come up with predicted papers. So you can find these types of papers and you can go through all of these papers. I'll say these questions are fairly easy compared to the real exam questions, but I would be giving you another resource that contains much harder questions. What the hell, man? This brother has been messing about in the background, interrupting my recordings. Sorry, mate. Going back to the video, these questions I would say are fairly easy, and you should be aiming for at least 80% or above in each of these papers. And I would say go through each of these papers and try your best to get the highest marks that you possibly can. And of course, once you completely finish these papers, go through the mark scheme, correct yourself, and see where you went wrong. So this is another resource, and this is another way that you can use Neildoesmaths. You can use it for practice questions on topics that you covered, but also use it to find predicted papers. So yeah, I'll say try going through all of these papers, guys. Every single one of these papers, try going through them. I think they get harder and harder the more you go down, and just try completing them. The statistic papers, again, Neildoesmaths by far is the best resource to find applied exam questions, I would say, after you practice using the textbooks. So go through your statistics practice questions, your mechanics practice questions, all of these. And I would say the best time to do these practice paper questions is after you finish all the content for A-level maths. But a very important thing is, this is another strategy. I'll be just dropping random gems throughout this video. So this is one of them. Try finishing all of your A-level content by the time it's like, I think A-level exams start during May. So try finishing it by at least bare minimum, try finishing it by mid-Feb or end of February, so you get that extra month or two to practice, at least 2 to 3 months to practice all the A-level content, because you have to go through first the easy past paper questions, and then the actual past paper questions, and then the harder past paper questions that are less likely to come up. But once you get your mind to do those types of questions, maths will just become second nature. So one of my gems is to try finishing the content ahead of schedule by the time it's like February. I know a lot of schools, including my school finished at like 2 weeks before exams. That is crazy. That is unbelievable, and that is just unacceptable at that point. So I would say be always ahead of your class. Try covering content ahead of time, and try completing all the content that you have as early as possible, and bare minimum try finishing it by mid-Feb or end of February, which is what I would recommend. Moving on from Neildoesmaths, physics and maths tutor. Again, this will cover basically what Neildoesmaths does. They have, if you want to revise, I think they have topic questions for each topic. They're a little bit more weird, and I only go to physics and maths tutor for questions by topic if I can't find really good questions on Neildoesmaths. But PMT is by far the best place to find past papers. So you can find it all the way up to from 2018 to 2021, and the best way to again correct yourself is either using the model answers. I don't really like using the mark scheme, but it's good to see where you're losing marks if you want to use the mark scheme. If you want to use the mark scheme, but the model solutions is by far the best way to see the method that you're meant to use, and video solutions as well. Another gem is the best way to learn maths. The best way to effectively learn maths, I would say, is to see people that are better than you doing exam questions, or doing the questions that you're currently struggling with. See how they perceive the question, how they go about breaking down the question, what method they use, and how they come up with the answer. This kind of refers to, like, I don't know, football or something. If you want to become, I don't know, Cristiano Ronaldo, you see how Cristiano Ronaldo plays football, and then you go about copying his skills or his, I don't know, his way of training. Same in maths. If you want to become the best at maths that you possibly can, find the person that you think is the best at maths and see how they do the questions. What I used to do is I used to go to this tuition teacher that was in the nearby town, and he was by far he was like a maths calculator, and just by looking at him, just by looking at the way he solves exam questions, I was able to improve my ability to solve maths questions. So I would say another gem is to see people that are better than you solving questions, so you can understand things better and you can learn from the best. Yeah, and before I share the most underrated resource, I want to quickly go through one more thing. I think you can find old A-level maths papers. Just give me a minute. Old A-level maths papers. There's a website that has all the old A-level maths papers as well. Let me see if I can find it. It goes all the way up to like 2013. This one. I think it's this one. Let me see if... Yeah, this one. Let me see if they have Edexcel. Yeah, they do. Edexcel and AQA. This website, it just came to my mind. They have papers going all the way back to, I think, 2012. It's crazy. You don't have to go all the way to like, I don't know, 2005. I'll say stop at about 2011, 2012. These questions, of course, there's only, I think, once you go past 2018, it turns into core papers, which are kind of weird. So I'd say do a couple of these. I think some of these are for AS, but you'll figure it out. But these contain the old A-level past papers as well. If you're an absolute machine, and I know a lot of you guys watching this video will become absolute machines after watching this video, you will probably finish all the past papers available, or you would just want to do extra questions or get that extra practice in when you have free time. And this is a great resource to use, going through the old maths papers, as sometimes in your real exams they might use exam style questions from the past, from like 5-6 years back, and this is a great way to practice. So this is just another resource that you can use. And yeah, so if you want to find old past papers, this is the website that you should go to. And going back to PMT, Neildoesmaths. This is the most underrated resource ever. And this resource, these exam or whatever question papers contain some of the hardest, if not the hardest, A-level maths questions out there. I mean, I don't know. Some of them, they look hard, but they're fairly easy. But some of them are truly very, very hard. And these are the type of papers that you should be doing leading up to your exams. Like, I don't know, 2-3 weeks before your exams, or not 2-3 weeks, I would say like a month before your exams. And this will build you up to become an absolute mathematical machine. I think paper A is the easiest. These are fairly, as you can see, these just look much harder than the typical exam question that you do on the exam papers available online. So I'll say get your practice in near your exam period using Neildoesmaths. It's the most underrated resource ever, and each paper gets harder and harder. And I would suggest completing all the papers. I personally didn't, if I'm being 100% honest. I think I got to like L or M, but that was all the practice that I needed to get the A star in A-level maths. So use Neildoesmaths, the most underrated ever, and his solutions are actually very clear. Super clear, just like the physics and math tutor model answers. These basically go through step by step. These go through the method step by step, which is amazing, and you can use this to understand where you went wrong and make sure you get all the marks that you need and find the correct answer each time. So Neildoesmaths, another underrated resource, the most underrated resource in my opinion. And if you don't understand the model answers that are present in the solution section, the next resource that you can use is Mr. Asprey. An absolute legend. He started his YouTube channel when I was doing my A-levels, so he came in super clutch towards the end of my time studying A-level maths, and he covers a lot of basically like tricky A-level questions. the things like that. He's on episode 44 of his tricky question series, but he has some great content. I'll say Mr. Asprey's the best for practicing A-level maths questions, and he has this tricky maths section and some actually great questions that tend to come up often in mock and actual papers. So Mr. Asprey is another great resource, and he helped me a lot with all the complicated questions that were present in the maths papers and all the other tricky questions that come up ever so often in the exam papers. And damn, it's been a long video. Finally, the final resource that I would recommend. This was by far the most clutch resource that I found during the end of my time studying A-level maths, and that is Neildoesmaths. I didn't use him much for pure maths because I found it later on during my study leave, but Neildoesmaths was the most clutch for my applied maths. One of the questions that he used, he does these live sessions during exam time. I think when your study leave start, watch out for Neildoesmaths live sessions, as they are very useful. He goes through his own predicted papers, and from the information that is given to by his colleagues or whatever, and his predicted papers are very accurate. I remember for pure, I think one of my friends told me he watched his video and one of the binomial expansion questions came up, and for me one of the applied maths questions, I think it was for mechanics, actually ended up coming up in the actual exam, in my actual applied exam. Only the numbers were slightly different. So it was so clutch that I watched his live the day before the exam, and it was very useful for me. So I would say definitely watch Neildoesmaths towards the very end of your time studying A-level maths, just before your exams, as his predicted papers are they tend to be very accurate, or they have been very accurate so far. So Neildoesmaths, and these are all the resources that I currently have in mind, and if I do have any more, I would probably make another video, or I'll drop them down in the comments below. But these are all the resources that I use to go from sometimes a U grade, a D grade, all the way up to an A star. And if I can do it, someone that just scraped into A-level maths, getting a grade 7 in GCSE maths, I'm sure you can 100% do it, get this A star that you deserve, and get into your dream university, or just have that A star to flex on your friends or something. So if you did find this video useful, drop a like below and make sure to subscribe, because I'll be making way more videos on this type of content. And make sure you share this video with a friend that isn't very good at maths, that wants to get better. And I wish you the best of luck, and I hope you really get that A star in A-level maths.